more likely when you run into somebody who is identifying as like gay, do have sexual abuse trauma somewhere in their childhood. There was somebody I worked with told me that at like age, it was either 15 or 17, he was having a relationship with his mom's boyfriend at the time.
Yeah, what I want to tackle today is you touched on you being part on the board of an LGBT or LGTV community in Fresno, probably one of the biggest ones that we have here.
Mm-hmm.
And I just kind of wanted to dive deeper into what was that like? What was the culture like? And just that. Like, how did you even enter that again? If you could break down more.
Sure. So it was like a 2-year process for me to get into that position.
Mm-hmm.
Started off with, like how I said last time, that on MySpace I made a connection with this woman who mistaken me for one of her friends.
Yeah.
And we started conversing, going back and forth. And when I told her, like, hey, I'm bisexual, she was like, oh, hey, cool. There's this group that is literally right down the street from your high school where we meet at. You should come through and check us out. And it was a group for for gay youth.
Mm-hmm.
And the youth is loosely used. Went from, at that time, as young as 15 years old to as old as 24, 25. But we would meet every Friday right across the street from Fresno City College. And I would attend every Friday, or as often as I could when I got a job. And I made myself very vocal and outwardly trying to volunteer whenever like events would come up, and just kind of slowly working my way into being noticed. The leader of the group, he was the head of the board for that I was on eventually. And he had been running this group as well as the board for like 26 years at that point. And one day he just said, hey, David, we are needing to transition in some younger people because all of us on the board are like in our 50s and 60s. We're going to die. So we need people to start taking over. Do you want to jump in and learn and over time be one of the permanent members? I was like, yeah, let's do it. And honestly, it was kind of boring. I mean, it's a board meeting. It's a lot of like, yay, nay. That's it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was. I mean, honestly, that part was boring.
But what were like some of the goals you had? Like, were there goals like, because you said this was like around what time? 2011?
Yeah. So when I was on the board, it was like between like 2010, 2011.
For how long? From 2010, 2011 to when?
From about 2010 to about 2011.
Oh, okay. So you're on there for like a year.
No, I was very uninvolved. Like, as much as I wanted to be in there, I was also very lazy at the time. Ultimately, I did want to like try and get to the position where I could be, one of the more functioning heads that would be organizing like the Pride Festival and all the other auxiliary fundraisers that we have. Like, there's also, I don't think it's during Pride Month. I want to say it's later in the year, where it was the Fresno Film Festival, where it was the Gay Film Festival. And that organization was in charge of like renting out Tower Theater and bringing in the movies.
Okay.
So that was more or less what the board did. The big thing that they organized was the Pride Festival. And then you had your smaller groups that you would help account for funds and all that stuff and allocate who gets what funds.
Okay. So like those are pretty much the main goals.
Yeah.
Just prioritizing that stuff right there.
Correct.
Okay.
But eventually, even when I was still like, I guess you would say identifying in that lifestyle, that group, it was not a healthy place to be in. It was a very strong stereotype that like pretty much everybody in that group knew at least one other person intimately. And I'm surprised none of us got sick from it. Like, it was just like, you can make you ever heard of the 6 degrees separated theory, where like everybody knows somebody 6 degrees removed?
Mm-mm.
So like the common ones, like you're 6 degrees removed from Kevin Bacon. You know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody who knows Kevin Bacon.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
Oh no.
Mm-mm.
Oh well, there you go. So I knew somebody intimately by 6 degrees because I was with somebody who was with somebody who was with somebody who was with him.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
It was disgusting. And that's unfortunately how that group was. It was
Yeah.
it was more of a dating group than anything else.
Really? So the board was more like everybody was intimate with.
Not the board.
Oh,
the
you're talking about the group that you were in.
The group I was in.
Okay.
Which in hindsight kind of irritates me because it's targeted towards gay youth.
And so what is it? What is the goal of that group? It's just to network with other.
So that group itself, what it was at least presented to me as like a safe place for gay youth to just come and not have to worry about like any kind of stigma, be around people who are
Like
you.
like-minded
Yeah.
and stuff like that.
Well, I wouldn't even say like-minded. So the issue with that lifestyle is your identity becomes, oh, I'm bisexual or
So
I'm
sexuality.
gay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Whereas like it doesn't take into consideration your personality or your ambitions. So like there were out of that entire group, maybe 2 or 3 people I was actually like-minded with. I didn't like almost any other person. It was just,
Really?
yeah, it was just like literally the only unifying thing about that group was, hey, we're all sexually confused. That was it. And it was easy to propagate it because it was targeted at gay youth. So when you're youth, you're trying to find a place where you belong. And when you have your barriers up because you have this lifestyle you're living, you're going to migrate to the place where you feel like you can most connect, regardless of who is or is not there.
And was there a subject matter that was talked about in every meeting? Like there was a specific point you guys, or it would just be meet up.
Meet up and talk about a random topic of the day. The only thing that like was ever really tried to like be educated on was the whole purpose behind why there is even a gay pride festival to begin with. And I'm pretty sure most people don't even know why there is a gay pride festival. It's supposed to commemorate the Stonewall riots, which was a gay club. I forget where in the United States. I want to say it was in New York during the 70s, where like clubs were being shut down because they were gay clubs. And at the time it was illegal. And Stonewall was like one of the last ones. And they started a huge riot. And it was one of the most pivotal points in gay history. See, even that sounds weird. Gay history. Where it started changing the public's perception of should homosexuality be outlawed. And that's why they have a Pride Festival every year. At least that's why there was a Pride Festival. Now it just seems like they're trying to have an excuse to not wear anything.
Yeah. No, they're getting pretty intense now.
That's actually even when I was still living the
And I
lifestyle.
see kids sometimes. When I see kids there, I'm like, oh man,
Yeah.
that's like kids shouldn't be seeing that. That's what I think.
So when I was still living that lifestyle, the last Pride Festival I went to, I started observing that there were little kids and half naked adults, and sometimes questionably clothed adults. And in my head, I was like, even though this is supposed to be commemorating something that's supposed to be important to me, this is disgusting.
Yeah.
Why are kids in a sexualized area?
Yeah.
Who thinks it's a good idea to bring their child to this?
Yeah, and that's what it's. I mean, I've heard a lot of people who are gay. Have you ever heard of like, the gag community? It's a funny name, but it's gays against groomers.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, where like I saw where they went to a school board or something where he's like, I'm gay and all this stuff, and what is going on about pushing all this stuff to the kids, like small youth, is disgusting, and that's their whole group, is that it's just gays against groomers.
And, you know, I appreciate what they're trying to do. It's nice that people in that community are trying to stand against what's obviously sexualization of children. But like the messed up thing, now this is more anecdotal. I wouldn't be able to have the numbers off the top of my head, but more likely when you run into somebody who is identifying as like gay or gay adjacent, wherever you want to place that, do have sexual abuse trauma somewhere in their childhood. There was somebody I worked with told me that at like age, it was either 15 or 17, he was having a relationship with his mom's boyfriend at the time.
No way.
Yeah. And then somebody who I was close to at one point, when he was, by the time he had hit 21 years old, he had over 100 partners. And he started when he was a teenager. So, I mean, to say that there isn't trauma in that community would be a lie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for me, it just seems like it's like outside of the extreme examples, to end up in that community without trauma would be a rarity
Mm-hmm.
and almost impossibility.
And that would be the case even in that group where that you attended. The individuals you even spoke with. Did you ever get to a deep level of conversation with them where you discuss things like that?
Oh, yeah. The gentleman who I told you had over 100 partners, he was one of them in that
Oh,
group.
wow.
Yeah. Honestly, I couldn't tell you if there was anybody in that group, at least when I was going there, who didn't have some kind of trauma.
Yeah.
And it like breaks my heart that every single one of them had had some way, shape, or form a trauma that led them into that lifestyle or just reinforced that lifestyle. Even like if, how do I put it? So you do have like the external factors that could lead somebody into that lifestyle, but being a Christian in this perspective, there's also the spiritual that happens and the spirit of Jezebel that could lead you down into sexual temptation. And then once you're in that lifestyle, it's reinforced and habitual. And 10, 15 years into it, even if you try to flee it, it's going to be a hard pressed issue to try and remove that from your lifestyle.
Break down that spirit of Jezebel for people who don't know.
So, off the top of my head, the spirit of Jezebel was the wife to, oh my gosh, what was the king of Babylon?
I remember very little about it. I know that she was pretty mean, I think.
So she's the one who led to the idolatry of, I think it's Baal, and the sacrifice of children. And her servants were either eunuchs, so they no longer had their genitalia, or after she used them sexually, she would kill them. So she was a very sexualized oriented person who would just end the life cycle by either like castrating or killing people.
Well,
And then also leading to child sacrifice. And I think that's a very strong spirit that's in the gay community. You either have bloodlines being ended by same-sex attraction, or in a very hypersexualized world with the propagation of abortion, you have the life cycle ended or the bloodline ended through child sacrifice in that regard.
yeah. And what would be something you would encourage somebody who's going through that? Or let's say for me, like somebody who knows somebody who's going through it, what's the best way, if you know of any, to reach out to somebody that's in that community, right? Like let's say people who are listening, who most of the people who listen are believers, and so what would be like advice that you would give us in regards to maybe knowing somebody in that community, how to approach it?
So it would have to be a long play. It's not a quick fix. Like in that community, you're insulated for one. So you're constantly surrounded by people who are in this lifestyle, who have a vested interest effectively to keep you in. And are probably guarded as well personally because of like feelings of like the world rejects you or hates you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're not worthy of whatever. And then you throw on top of that now God hates you because of how you're living. So I think if you're going to be there for somebody who is in this lifestyle, it's not going to be a quick fix, 2-3 week thing. It's going to be years. I mean, years of just loving that person And I mean, it's just living the life that Christ calls us to, being the light and show Christ through you, and just slowly feed love into them of the love of God, and don't even bring up the sin. Like, ultimately, we want them to be able to understand and repent of the sinful nature that they're in, just as we did.
Yeah.
But to start off the conversation by saying, hey, bud, you're going to hell. That's not the way to go. It would probably have to start with something smaller, and maybe something as simple as, hey, have you ever heard of Jesus and why he's so important to us?
Yeah.
I think once you can start bringing up Jesus and bringing up the gospel, it no longer singles them out.
Mm.
Instead of saying, hey, you're going to hell, the gospel says we were all doomed for hell. We all fall short of the glory of God. We all needed Jesus.
We all are screw-ups.
Exactly. You're not singled out because you're living this lifestyle. As immoral as this lifestyle is, so is the boyfriend and girlfriend who are living together, who are fornicating, are on the same level as you.
Mm-hmm.
Or the drunkard, or the liar, the thief. Probably one of the best people I think I've seen even evangelize is Ray Comfort.
Oh, I love Ray Comfort.
Oh, he's amazing. Just the way he breaks down the gospel of redemption. It's great because it just shows, regardless of who you are, you fall into the same template as everybody else.
Yeah, I love it, man. I use his anytime I'm talking to somebody.
Mm-hmm.
I always use it.
Yeah,
I always use it, man.
it's wonderful. Like,
it's beautiful how it works. It shows, like, it's this very simple way to show pretty much the wickedness in us.
mm-hmm.
And you have to understand, first you have to understand the sickness to get the cure, right? So if somebody doesn't think that they're wrong, right? They say they think they're a good person, then why do I need Jesus? I'm a good person. Like, right? Like,
are you really though?
But that's the question, right?
Yeah.
It's like, are you really? And then that's when you get tested at, right? Like, oh, I lie, I steal. It's always I lie, steal, using God's name in vain, and lust.
Fornication.
Yeah. So it's cool, man. I love using it too. And it's very humbling to know that all of us are screwed up. You know what I mean? Like, nothing I do is worth anything, really.
Yeah. Actually, I think if somebody like Ray Comfort were to have gone to like a Pride festival when I was there, I think I would have responded positively to it. I probably wouldn't have jumped straight onto the Team Jesus right away and be a total sellout for Jesus. But I think it would have been a really great way for somebody to plant seeds, because it comes from a starting place of love.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not persecution. It's just allowing for the realization that I'm no better than you just because I've accepted Jesus. Me accepting Jesus makes me understand how deprived how much of a depraved individual I am. I'm probably worse than you, to be honest. Please hear the gospel and receive it and repent of your sins.
Mm-hmm.
That is probably one of the best approaches I've heard.
If you guys enjoyed that clip, please give us a like, subscribe, and comment down below what you guys thought. Thank you guys for tuning in. God bless. Bye-bye.